Hi there, Ivan from the Detailers Business Academy, and today we're going to talk about applying a coating. My friends at Roar Coating have asked me to do a little video to supplement the video that I did with Pan the Organizer about the little tips and tricks of installation. Now, Pan, we did his new Porsche, looks wonderful. I don't own a new Porsche. This is what I own. So, yes, a coating, first of all, doesn't have to go on a new exotic car. It can go on any car, anyone's car. It doesn't matter. What matters is you're protecting the person's vehicle. You're giving them ease of maintenance. You're making their car shiny, look good. Now, to apply a coating, again, it doesn't have to be an exotic. It doesn't have to be an expensive car. It could be an old pickup truck if you want to. There are a few basic rules to applying a coating. First of all, the vehicle needs to be clean. It needs to be decontaminated and it needs to look good. Now, it doesn't need to be perfect. A lot of people are under the misconception that to coat a car, you have to make the paint perfect. Well, that's just not true. The paint has to be clean. It has to be free of waxes, greases, solvents, and fillers. You want your coating to apply directly to the paint, not to anything else. Once you've prepped it to your customer's satisfaction, or to your satisfaction if it's your own vehicle, then you're ready to apply the coating. You can use a prep wipe. The prep wipe that we used here is actually a mix that you can make at home. And that's 1/3 acetone and 2/3 original Windex. It's a great prep wipe, works wonderfully. But if your coating manufacturer supplies a prep wipe, use it. It's probably engineered to work with their coating. Now, the application of Roar coating is very simple. It can be done by just about anyone. But it is a coating that's reserved for professional installers. And there are a number of reasons for that. First of all, you're a professional installer. You have training. You know what to look for. As a detailing professional, you put a lot of pride, a lot of effort, and a lot of training into getting to this point of applying a coating. There are instances, like this special occasion with Roar Coatings, that a pro coating is available to the end user. And with that may come a few little problems. Now, the reason we take our vehicles to professionals to have them coated, there are a lot of reasons. First of all, some of us don't like doing the work. But secondly, the pro installer has gone through training, has gone through years of experience to get to that point. And while a coating seems very simple to install, and they are, if you know what you're looking for, there can be little problems. Those little problems are high spots. You can have a little bit of moisture hiding behind a molding that gets out while you're applying the coating. You can apply too little. You can apply too much. So there are a lot of little fine points, and I'm going to try to go over as many as possible in this video. Just to make sure, we need to prep the vehicle properly. And those prep steps are washing the vehicle, decontaminating the vehicle, a chemical decontamination if necessary, so an iron remover, maybe an APC, a water spot remover if there are water spots on the vehicle, then polishing. Now, we don't need to polish to perfection. We need to polish to clean the paint. On Pan's case, it was a brand new car, had 37 kilometers on it, so it didn't have lots of road rash or traffic film or anything like that. But we did go through the steps nonetheless. Now, an almost 30-year-old pickup truck, we had a little more work to do on this one. And it's been repainted, and yes, repainting does change the way we polish a vehicle. We can't be quite as aggressive. There will be scratches left. I'm not concerned about that. I want my truck to be easy to clean, easy to maintain, and to look glossy all the time. That's what the coating's going to obtain for me. Someone that has a brand new car, it's going to protect that paint much better than anything else. Now, Roar coatings, like a lot of professional coatings, come in various ways. Roar comes in two different bottles, two different products, base coat and hardener. The base coat goes on first, obviously, the hardener second. Now, every coating manufacturer has differences in their application methods, and pay attention to what they're asking you to do. That being said, for Roar, it's been engineered to be simple and efficient and effective for the professional installer. The base coat goes on. We're going to be putting it on in a circular motion, applying it, looking for high spots, watching the flashing, and when we get to the right point, we'll level the coating with a towel. Once we've leveled the coating with the towel, we move on to another section and keep going around the vehicle. 1 hour after we've applied the base coat. So if we started applying the base coat at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we can start installing the hardener. Now with Roar, you can wait up to 24 hours to install the hardener. So if you put your base coat on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, well, you can put your hardener on at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock the next morning, up till 1 o'clock the next day. So that's a nice little advantage. The other thing that's nice about Roar is it doesn't need to sit in the shop to cure for days on end, or even hours on end. 1 hour after it's applied, it can leave the shop. So for a professional installer, that means they get a much better turnaround time, and it's great for the customer as well because they don't lose their car for a long period of time. So enough talking, let's get applying some coating. First off, a few safety concerns. When applying a coating, always wear gloves, eye protection, and be in a well-ventilated area. Roar doesn't have a lot of nasty smells or things like that, but nonetheless, you want to be well ventilated. Shake the bottle, and Roar, as mentioned in Pan's video, contains a few different things. It's a polysiloxane base. On top of the polysiloxane base, or into the polysiloxane base, we have SiO2 and graphene. So it needs to be well mixed up. And graphene isn't just a buzzword, it's an actual thing. It does work. It helps prevent water spots. That's why it's in the formulation. And it gives a little extra gloss too. Now, the first application, we're going to be putting quite a bit on our applicator pad. You want to get your applicator pad primed, for lack of a better word. And we're going to be applying in circular motions. You don't want to go back and forth, because every time you go back and forth, whenever you stop a motion, you'll get a high spot. And high spots are what we're trying to avoid. Now, as I mentioned, I'm wanting to prime my pad so I have an excessive amount on the pad because I want to spread it all over the surface of the pad. So I'm going to be doing a larger area this time. And yes, the coating can go over all exterior surfaces. Now I still see that I've got a heavy amount over here where I started, so I'm just going to spread it a little more. And then we watch for flashing. And it's going to be different on every vehicle. It's also going to be different in every temperature. So depending on your temperature and humidity, the flashing is going to go a little differently. And the flashing looks like an oil slick on water. And you want that oil slick on water to go almost back to clear. Then you grab a short nap towel. I prefer a pearl weave towel, but any short nap towel will do. You want a nice clean new towel. And then we simply level the coating. No pressure. And it shouldn't be dragging. If it feels like it's dragging, then you haven't waited long enough. If you get a high spot, then you waited a little too long. Now, we'll purposely make a high spot on this panel, because that's the goal of this video, is to teach you how to apply coating. There, we got a high spot. We're going to come back to that after we do the door and the rest of the vehicle. We're going to let that high spot sit for a little while. So as we're applying, we're looking to make sure that we get even coverage. And one way of doing that is to box in a panel. So you're basically going around the whole outside of the panel, because that's where people tend to miss. And then once you've boxed it in, follow through by filling in the center. And you want to overlap to the previous and the next panel. That way you're sure of getting proper coverage. We watch for the flashing again, and once it's flashed to our liking, we take our microfiber towel and level the surface. Now this one feels a little grabby, so I'm going to wait. While I'm waiting, move on to another section. Now, one thing that's nice about the Roar coating is that it goes on everything. That means chrome, the plastic mirrors, plastic and rubber trim, and glass. Now you remember I overlapped to the next panel and the previous panel, so I want to make sure to get those areas as well to remove any potential high spots. When we're going along the vehicle, when do we apply more coating to the pad? When you start feeling resistance, that's when you want to start adding a little more to your pad. On the glass or on the windows, we see our application a lot better. And the darker the vehicle, the easier it is to apply. So we want to make sure to get all that rubber trim and our window completely. On glass, it flashes much faster because there aren't as many pores for it to absorb into. Glass is actually porous if you look at it through a microscope, but not as much as the paint. By the time this video is over, I'll have the glossiest 1995 F-250 on the road. So we're going to continue around the truck. We'll be back to finish off with the hardener. Remember our high spot? It's still there. Now, it's been a while. We're going to remove the high spot with an easy technique. Using the hardener, going to put it on our application pad and go over that high spot. Now sometimes you'll need to rub a little more using the hardener, and the hardener will dissolve that high spot. And then before the hardener dries, you want to wipe it off. That is the easy way of removing high spot. Now, it's been an hour. The high spot was still relatively fresh. Unfortunately, if you let that high spot go till the next day, you're pulling out your polisher and you're starting over again. So that panel will need to be polished, will need to be base coated, and have the hardener put on it. So be very vigilant when you're doing your coating, watching for high spots. The other thing that you have to be very careful of is things like moldings. Mirrors, they can hide a lot of water, and that water becomes a really big problem. Now, 1 hour after it's cured, you can take this out in the rain, but until that point, you want to keep it dry. And if you do happen to get a little drip out of one of these moldings, well, what's going to happen is you're going to see like a cloudy area, and that cloudy area is not going to be fun to remove. If you see it soon enough, you can take your applicator, hardener, and go over it again. If you catch it soon enough, you can take a microfiber towel, a bit of polish that is safe for coatings, and polish it off. Now, a polish that's safe for coatings doesn't contain hydrocarbon solvents. So you have to be very careful. If your polish contains hydrocarbon solvents, you can get what's called blushing. And that blushing looks like a haze over the surface. Now that haze is brought on by the coating actually bringing those fillers and bringing those hydrocarbon solvents to the surface and depositing them on the surface. There's a few ways of taking care of that. First of all, let it sit for a few hours and that haze will wipe off. If not, after it's had that 1 hour cure, you can take a quick detailer and go over the surface. And that is going to remove that haze. Basically, you're just taking that solvent residue off the surface of your coating. Other areas that you can have a problem with, well, the hardener itself. If you get a high spot in your hardener, well, you have to be a little faster in acting because then you're going to be polishing. Now, what the hardener does gives it a little more gloss, a little more slickness, and as the name implies, a little more hardness. The Rohr coating is a 9H coating like every other coating on the market, but there's different variances of 9H coating. It's 9H with a certain amount of pressure on that stylus. And you can look back at my older videos. I have one on deciding what coating company to use, and there's a lot of good technical information in that video. From here, once we've applied the hardener, then this truck, 1 hour later, is ready to go out and play. You'll want to refrain from washing the vehicle for at least a week. And that is to allow the coating to finalize its curing internally. It's created a hard shell on the outside within that first hour, but inside it's still soft and tender. So we want to make sure that on the inside it gets cured as well before hitting it with any nasty chemicals. Now, if you're driving the vehicle, you get caught in rain, it gets really dirty, you can wash it. The way to wash it is with a rinseless wash. You want to be extremely gentle. You want to spray on your rinseless wash, let it dwell, then, and only then, take your pressure washer, rinse off the dirt with the rinseless with it, and then wash it with your rinseless wash with a proper wash sponge. Dry it, and you're good to go. In that first week, you don't want to use anything but a rinseless, and you don't want to use any drying aids or anything like that. For the first week, if you can, let it be. If it gets, again, lots of bugs on the front, splashed with mud, what have you, yes, you'll want to clean it. But don't use any soaps, don't use any harsh chemicals, don't use any degreasers, and don't use anything like that. If you do have a problem that is an exception to the rule, road paint, tar, something like that, bring it back to your professional detailer. They'll know what to do. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas, please leave them below. I'm always happy to answer, and stay tuned for more videos. We're going to end this video with me applying the Rohr hardener to this beautiful 1995 F-250. And no, this isn't sponsored content. Ford has not paid me at all to mention the F-250 or their beautiful old truck. While editing this video, I noticed I missed a few little things. First of all, your towels and applicator. When you're done with them, simply put them in your bucket of rinseless, let them dwell for half an hour or so, rinse them out, wash them, and they're good to go for another coating. Rohr coatings are designed for the professional user. In this exceptional case, anyone can get a hold of Rohr coatings. That doesn't mean that anyone should apply the Rohr coating. It takes a lot of time and effort to prepare the vehicle to look even as good as this old F-250. And things can go wrong. And when they go wrong, you need to know what to do, how to solve it without causing any more damage. So again, if you're not sure what you're doing, take it to a professional Rohr installer. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.